In 3, 2, 1, EGX 2016, let's go. So here's the thing, I went to EGX 2016 because I wanted to try out the PlayStation VR. However, I did not get to try out the PlayStation VR because you were supposed to register online. Now, I knew you were supposed to register online, and as such, I went to the online registration and tried to register online, but the site was not working, therefore I could not register online. I went down anyway to see if I could get a slot, but it was completely booked, so I did not get to try out the PlayStation VR. Sony, sort it out, mate. But anyway, I did get to try out the HTC Vive and the Oculus Rift. I also got to play some really cool games as well, so I'm going to talk about all of those, so let's get into it. Now, I got to spend about 10 minutes or so on both the Vive and the Rift, so this isn't going to be some in-depth review. It's going to be first impressions of what I thought about the technologies and the games I got to play with them. Now, they're both very good machines, but in terms of the better machine, I'll give the slight edge to the HTC Vive. That being said, it may not be the one you want to buy, if indeed you want to buy any of them, if indeed you could afford to buy any of them, if indeed you could afford to and have the space for any of them. So things that I liked, both of them very comfortable. I didn't have any kind of neck pain or shoulder pain. I didn't feel like I was trying to lift the tank up with my head. They're both very comfortable. Also, I didn't feel any kind of eye strain with either of them either, and that's a good thing because you don't want to go blind. Now, to be fair, I didn't spend a long time on either of them, but considering when I played the 3DS, after about 3-4 minutes or so, I started to feel eye strain. To be able to go 10 minutes without feeling eye strain or headaches and things like that, at the very least, it's a step in the right direction. And the virtual reality itself is a pretty incredible experience. It really feels like you are inside this virtual world. You know, you aim your gun that way and you shoot that way. You aim your gun that way and you shoot that way. Accuracy is on fleek. It is awesome. I've got aliens flying by. I'm ducking as they go by. I'm pulling my shield out. One underwater demo where I'm looking around as massive whales just swimming by. You really feel like you could just reach out and touch it. Of course, you can't. You just end up hitting the wall, which I did. Now, things that I did not like. Now, with both the Vive and the Rift, one thing I noticed is that when you put the visors on, you can actually see the tiny little red, green, and blue pixels on the screen. You know, when you lean in close to your monitor or your TV, you see the tiny little red, green, and blue pixels. You can actually see them, and although they're not super distracting, it is a little bit disappointing that they're visible. Now, with the Vive, the games are more motion focused, so you are going to need some space. They recommend at least 2 meters by 2 meters, and I don't know if you can tell, but I barely have 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters, so that's pretty much a no for me, really. So if you got the space, then cool. However, what you might want to bear in mind is if you remember back when the Wii came out with the motion controls and how cool that was for a few weeks, and then it got pretty old pretty quickly, it's a possibility that could happen again. Personally, when it comes to gaming, I'm not into whole movement stuff, you know. I don't want to feel like I'm having a workout every time I play a video game, or I have to change into my gym clothes to play a video game. You know, I don't want to do that. I don't want to move around. I want to sit down and relax. Now, that being said, the Vive does have a keep still option. Now, that wasn't the exact wording of it. I forget what it's actually called, but it's an option where you can just sit down, keep still. You can move your head around, but you don't have to be moving your arms and walking around your room and stuff like that. You can just sit down, controller in hand, look around, and just do it that way. But if you do take that option, that means you'd be paying more for something that you can really just do with the Oculus Rift. So there's that. Now, between where the cushion is that meets your face and the hardware of the Oculus Rift itself, I noticed on the inside there was these really small perforations along the inside where light from outside, from the real world, comes through, and you can actually see, you know, your own hands or whatever is below you. So you can actually see the real world through these tiny little perforations. I didn't really like that because I don't want to see the real world. I just wanted to see the game. And it's not something that breaks the game or completely takes you out of it, because, you know, you are looking ahead for the most part just anyway. But if you do look down, or if you move your eyes down, you can actually see outside into the real world through these tiny little perforations on the inside. Another thing I didn't like, and although I don't like it, I think the alternative is maybe not much better either. Now, if you've seen any VR footage before, you might have noticed that when there's like guns, or if someone's holding a gun, you don't actually see their hands. It's just a gun floating in the air. And I just felt it was a bit awkward because you're holding your hands out like this, and I'm looking ahead, and all I see in the game is these 2 floating guns. That's literally all I see. And with the Oculus Rift, The game that I was playing is called The Assembly, and there's a part where you're on a wheelchair and you're being pushed, and I'm looking down and all I see is the chair. I don't see my legs, I don't see my torso or anything. I just see the chair, no arms, nothing. And it's like, what am I, just a floating head? You know, I look down and there's nothing there but the chair. And it just feels weird. Now the alternative, of course, is to put a body there. And I was talking about this with somebody at the event, and what we'll discuss is that if there was a body there, that may not be that much better, because if you hold your hand out and you see the in-game version of your hand, but then you move your fingers around and your hand in the game isn't moving because it doesn't actually track your fingers, that might feel a bit weird as well. That might kind of pull you out of the virtual reality experience. You know, if you're holding guns, but then I do this to let go and I still have a clenched fist inside, you know what I mean? It might look a bit weird as well. But I feel like there must be some kind of balance they can strike between the two extremes, just so it doesn't feel so weird, but at the same time, there's something there. But here's what I'm sure most people want to know. Is it worth it? Well, let me work it. Put my fang down, flip it, and reverse it. Now, as I said, the technology, awesome. The experience, awesome. The games, however, not so much. They are fun, but they're not $800 worth of fun. From the games that I played and some of the games that I saw other people play, pretty much everything comes across as fun for a short period of time, but not much depth to it. Now, that being said, I do feel there is a big potential for the Vive, for the Oculus Rift, and even though I didn't get to play the PSV, I'm sure there's a big potential for that as well. But it's really going to come down to developers creating experiences that take advantage of the virtual reality technology in a way that is more than just a tech demo and really creates a solid, full-on experience. I think that is certainly possible. It just hasn't happened yet, at least as far as I know. So although these are definitely awesome pieces of kit, I still feel like it is best to wait till the price drops to a much more reasonable amount, or if money's not too much of an issue, wait till there's better games on the market. Now, apart from all that VR malarkey, I did actually play some regular old video games as well. Seraph for me was probably the standout game. I really enjoyed it. They describe it as a skill-based acrobatic shooter without aiming, and that might sound a bit silly, but the play experience is pretty cool. I really enjoyed it, and they also said that when you stream the game online, people who are watching can vote as to how well you're doing, which affects the difficulty going forward, and that, I believe, is very interesting. Alien Nation I liked as well. It's very similar to Dead Nation. In fact, it's exactly the same as Dead Nation, but with aliens. It's actually by the same developer. I would say Alien Nation is probably just a little bit harder, because in Dead Nation, most of the zombies don't shoot back, whereas in Alien Nation, most of the aliens do shoot back, so it adds a different dynamic to it. And Free the Blobs, which is a mobile puzzle game where you have to get the two blobs on the screen to the exit, but when you move one blob, the other blob moves as well. But it did this thing that if you beat all the levels of the demo, they give you a free t-shirt, and I got me a free t-shirt. And that was my day at EGX 2016, mostly spent waiting in VR queue. So let me know what you think of virtual reality. Is it something that you definitely want, something that you maybe want, or something that you're not too bothered about at all? Let me know down below, and if you liked this video, give it a like and share it amongst your friends. If you did not like it, then give it a dislike and share it amongst your enemies. Either way, let me know your reasons in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already. Thank you for watching, and until whenever, if ever, we are VR. Then of course it sets a very bad precedent for game critics or even reviewers of any nature, because if you can be sued for effectively giving a bad review,